Hello, guys. Hope you all are doing well and had a fantastic day in the market. We start with the disclaimer as always. Anything and everything that will be shared in here is purely for educational purposes only, and we are a SEBI registered research analyst. Right? Excellent. So, what did we share yesterday? I think we had a very solid plan, and I think I'm going to reflect a bit on psychology, right? So this is what we had analyzed, and we said we could expect a range bound expiry, right? And if you recall, based on the options data, we said 25,950 seems to be a magnet area, which is where the market precisely hovered around, right? And we said 25,052 is an area that I would be looking at, and not to run to trade, right? And look at the opening today at 25,030 in and around in that area, and it came back, right? We saw that sharp selling, and look at this area where the 25,950 straddle was very rewarding, right? So do comment how did you manage today. Now the reason why I wanted to reflect back today is because I think we've been talking about this example of the car, right? You can't run at 100 miles an hour every day and you can't hit a 6 on every single ball. I think this is what the market is teaching me personally, um, because one is the aggression, which translate into position sizing, um, because you may have a view. It does not mean that you can you have to go all in every single time, right? And today is another day which is I'm able to reflect back because we did a small straddle with a very small quantity and made a decent money and exited at this candle, right? And our SL was basically nothing but what we had shared yesterday, which was this trend line, and on the top it was this. I think it was a very fantastic day, especially when you have a plan, that you're not going all in, keeping it light and easy, and precisely what we discussed, and yet you make decent amount of money is something which is very rewarding, and it gives you that satisfaction, right? Because it's not always about getting the direction right, right? That's one thing which is very very important, no doubt. But this market has taught a lot of us, including our students, customers and me, that position sizing is the name of this game, right? When you're confident, you press the accelerator and you're ready for hitting a 6. If you're not, you keep it light, easy, while you may have the view right, right? And complex corrections are always complex, right? Excellent. So yeah, a fantastic day, and so do comment how did you manage, because I think this is what we precisely anticipated, and the market has closed at 25,910, right, which is not too far away from 25,950 that we discussed yesterday. And if you're here for the first time, please go and watch yesterday's analysis and also the weekend analysis, right? That's I think is very very important, because that sets the bigger picture, and then during the intraday we get into the minor details, right? And if you're interested to learn and analyze exactly like the way we do, I think it's high time you should look at joining our training sessions. I hear quite a lot of horror stories, right? We often tend to spend a lot of money giving it to the market rather than investing on our own learnings, right? So if you haven't and are serious enough and are here in the market to sustain, right? Because if you're here for long term, I think one should make their fundamentals stronger, right? That is when you can last here for long. Otherwise, complex corrections, I was telling earlier, does the cleaning of the weak hands, right? Which is making people bankrupt, right? So yeah, think about it and check the description box below. And if you would like, to trade along with us, also check the recommendation. And we've also started mentoring for the HNIs, investment bankers and the fund managers, right? So if you're one of them, do check the description below. I think it's an amazing uh, plan, and how things are unfolding. Can't be better discussions than that, right? Excellent. So with that said, looking at, taking a step back, the day candle, it is closed at 25,910. It is still respecting yesterday's low, which is 25,906, and today's low is 25,910, right? So the price is not bearish while we expected a dip in here and or a correction to begin, and that's precisely what is happening, right? So price is not bearish, but this is clearly indicating a correction that has begun. And if I look at, the hourly candle, clearly, 75 minutes also, we did the opening and then boom, that selling. And basically, uh, did a bit of time pass. And if you recall, this is the trend line that we drew, right? Bearish below 25,900. And the market has closed, broken this trend line, but it is still holding or respecting 25,900 area, right? But I think with what the markets did, this is broken out right now. Based on price, this is going to be my new level, 25,874, right? If it breaks down, we're going to go down south. So two things can happen. Either, we do this up and then we come down, or we open with a gap down tomorrow, right? Irrespective of either or, a dip is much needed, right? The big question, for me is, will I be trading this dip? Not really, because the overall trend is buy on dips, right? So if you're a scalper, I think this is definitely an opportunity to trade. And or if, I get a rise in here, I would definitely be looking, for a small, trade. Of course, small position sizing, um, and all of that, right? But I would be more interested in this dip and then wanting to buy that, right? That's the plan. And I wouldn't be surprised if we drag all day tomorrow, about 25,894. But depending on the opening, right? If it opens gap down, I will wait for any reversals to buy in here. If it opens flat and not a gap up, this drag will be very interesting, and I will be looking to short the market, right? I'm sure you're smart enough to understand what I'm trying to convey here, right? Looking at the open interest, clearly change in I didn't. Okay, 18 November. Today was expiry, right? So I think the data has changed a bit because we had a 25,950 sandwich, which is 25,900 and 26,000, with the big Bahubali pillars there. But hey, the week is over. As always, we look at the next week, but then the data is not significant for us to make any conclusions because it's the beginning of the week. There's not a lot of data to conclude. So change in OI is inconclusive, and overall open interest for next week, 26,000 is a resistance, right? And also there's a bit of put writing in here, and 5.32 crores, which is, pretty respectable, which makes me to look at the far strikes. But hey, the next Tuesday is, this is the monthly expiry that we are heading towards, right? So what I recall is today we had around 20 crore, writings, which was significant. And I had, you know, I feel terrible calling that name because if the sellers sold 20 crore calls and 20 crore puts, imagine we retailers buying it, right? And this is what I was, sharing earlier. We have to adapt. If you're saying that I'm an options buyer only, I'm an option seller, uh, that's, something that has to be changed. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe in having this fixed mind. Unless and until you're able to adapt yourself to switch between options buying and selling is when the market will reward. So imagine, 40 crore retailers buying both calls and sells, and God knows what percentage of them were successful today. It makes me feel terrible, right? And look at how they've closed it, right? 10 crore of them, they did an intraday trade and closed it and held, half of it till the end, right? So yeah, you don't drive your car at 100 miles an hour. You don't try to hit a six in every single ball. Likewise, you don't, be a buyer or a seller, right? You should be able to switch between the two, and look to steal whatever you can from this market, right? Sorry, too much psychology. I'm just reflecting back on how the day went. And yeah, so next week is data is inconclusive, except that the 26,000 is resistance, which is fair enough because in line with what we are analyzing, the data is supporting it. 26,030 is going to be a short-term high. And looking at Elliott Wave, nothing new, right? This is something that we've discussed already. So if you haven't watched yesterday's analysis, please go and watch it. We're looking at this as an A, B, C. Either B is over and or is ongoing, right? Because this can be A, B, and C of B. Um, A, B, and C of B if it does a gap up. If not, we're doing, already doing this is one of C and then two of C. We could do this and then boom, 3, 4, and 5, right? Completing wave C, or this can also be a WXY, right? In case if we don't see a clear impulsive wave. So I think that is all I had. Let's look at Bank Nifty. I don't think I looked at the Bank Nifty chart all day today, right? So this is something that we anticipated, and Bank Nifty is on track, right? Buy on dips clearly. So is Nifty, but for tomorrow we could get this sell on rise and the dip for short term. And I would definitely not be looking to short this market, but wait for the dip to get over to buy it, right? So do comment what is your plan, and guys, hit the like button and hit that hype button. Don't be stingy, right? I don't ask on every single video, but I'm sure you're mature enough and you appreciate the effort that's going behind and sharing this with you. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Cheers. Bye now.